ONF, NFB, présenté par, presented by l'Office national du film du Canada, National Film Board of Canada, en partenariat avec, in partnership with, le Secrétariat fédéral de lutte contre le racisme, the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat, produit par, produced by, Introspective Films. Réalisateur, director, Marcus Armstrong.
There is just something about being Black that is a gift, like the beauty that exists in the wide range of our melanated complexions glistening in the sun. Or even the versatile hair that grows from our roots, blossoming into the most creative of styles. The rhythm of our music that flows like the Nile through our veins as our hearts and souls synchronize with every beat. And the passion we possess for whatever it is that we do, that goes beyond our given talents, making us capable.
L'aîné Verna McGregor de la communauté Kitigan-Zibi-Anishinabeg apparaît dans une fenêtre vidéo.
Hello everybody, Kwekakina, bonjour tout le monde. Fernan Indishnikas, Kitigan-Zibi Ndonjaba. My name is Verna McGregor and I'm from Kitigan-Zibi, Anishinabeg, which is 120 kilometers north of Ottawa. For us, we're just recently getting over emancipation, for example, with the Indian Act, where at one time we weren't allowed to leave the reserve. We weren't allowed to partake in post-secondary education, and we weren't allowed to hire lawyers to as well, legal representation, and that was taken out in the mid-60s out of the Indian Act. I also bring my medicine wheel. Basic understanding is that there's 4 colors of people put on this earth, and but the biggest teaching is that regardless of our languages, our history, our beliefs, what binds us together is that we all share this earth. Also, the importance of the circle is when you're in a circle, also nobody's above anybody and nobody's below, and we all bring our strengths to the circle because of our diversity. So on that note, I've lit a little smudge for you tonight.
Elle agite une plume au-dessus de la fumée.
Lots of smoke virtually, and it's to cleanse you and also to honor you also on your journey here. And so I'm going to say a little prayer for you in the Algonquin language and to wish you well tonight and every day. So I say, Miigwech kajemanedo, onjene gashkito chimaundo se koshe nongom, wido kwa kakina pomadza jiktanis wa koshe nongom, shuen mishno. Kan sheshkwat ningwe de simen kego gajemanado shich kana noj kush ningwe de simen. We do kwa gia kakina pamatsa chik chiwana kiwach chimino pamatsa watch en abigis. Shwen mishno mi gwetch. Miigwech in our language is thank you, merci. And I say it 4 times again to honor the 4 directions. This represents also the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, the 4 stages of your life. It represents balance, your emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental at the center. One of our prophecies is that we're going to come to a crossroads where the earth is in trouble. And we have to come together, whether we like it or not, because also the future generations is at stake. And if you look at this climate change too as well, I think we need all minds coming together. So
Dans un parc, Wayne Hamilton, directeur exécutif des affaires afro-néo-écossaises, se tient debout près d'un batteur.
The call of the drum was going to signal the fact that we were about to do something here in Nova Scotia that we call a libation ceremony. So I'm going to ask Sobas if he could play some more of the drum as I set up what we call the libation. In order to do the libation here in Nova Scotia, we want to make sure that we create what we call a sacred space. So what I do is I take off my shoes because I believe that this space and what I'm about to do is very much
Wayne s'agenouille sur l'herbe.
Libation ceremony is done on the grounds of Africville. It was once a very thriving community, but it's no longer here physically, but it's here in our hearts and in our spirits. This libation ceremony is an opportunity for us to be connected to what we call our African past. And it's the pouring of the water into a calabash.
Wayne verse de l'eau dans un bol en bois.
I brought ram's horn.
Il soulève une boîte d'objets.
Some places of where our ancestors have come from. Cape Coast Castle, Bunce Island, Joufferet, Bagamoyo. Libation is an important ceremony done in Africa as an act of remembrance. It is a deliberate attempt to invoke the presence of those from our past. It represents our love and respect for each other. The core meaning, the core intention must remain the same, and that is remembering, recognizing, and recalling those who have passed on to bear witness and to give us guidance. We will remember the glory. We will also remember the humanity, and we will also remember the suffering of our ancestors. To our African ancestors, our children, and the children's children yet to be born, we pour this libation. To bring into our African spirit the willingness to survive, we pour. We pour this libation for our esteemed ancestors who laid the foundation for all civilizations, and those in our past who have provided us wisdom by which we model and live our lives today. We pour this libation in honor of those who have suffered the atrocities of the Mafa, the Holocaust, and yet demonstrated the power of the African spirit against all adversity by maintaining their dignity and no matter what costs. We pour this libation for those who survived the Middle Passage and made it possible for us to be here today so that we will continue their fight for freedom and equality. We pour this libation for the place we call Mother Africa. We pour this libation for the elders for whom we can learn so much. We pour this libation for the promise of our youth that they will have a better tomorrow. We also pour this libation to remember those who struggled in the fight for freedom. Finally, we pour this libation to honor the importance of this event, which is what you are witnessing today. We pour this libation to honor the past so we may learn from it. We will reflect on why we are here today. We pour this libation to signify that we come together to celebrate lives lived and lives lost. So in the African spirit of remembrance, we pour this libation. For the unity that should guide us in all that we do, we pour this libation. May the venerable African spirit engulf this occasion to reaffirm our African identity.
Dans un studio, un homme noir tient un tambour à main. Derrière lui, un batteur se tient près de tambours africains.
Hello, we are a Afiri group and we are presenting a dance and drum piece called Kasa. Kasa is a Malinke word that means granary. We know this is all about emancipation, and emancipation is about a history and a culture that are far older and greater than enslavement and colonialism.
Deux femmes noires, Monique Pascal et Rochelle Gardner, dansent devant les batteurs Derek Thorne et Darlington Theodore. Les danseuses sont pieds nus et sourient. Elles font des pas de côté et déplacent leurs bras dans les airs, puis les ramènent à leur poitrine. Elles se penchent vers l'avant et secouent les épaules. Elles plient les coudes et lèvent les mains en l'air, puis les rabattent en gardant les coudes pliés. Les danseuses tournent les hanches et marchent sur place sur la pointe des pieds, en écartant les bras et en les déplaçant de gauche à droite. Rochelle s'éloigne et Monique danse seule. Elle sourit, tourne en rond et fait de grands pas. Monique lève les mains près de sa tête et rapproche et éloigne les coudes. Elle se dirige vers la gauche et Rochelle arrive en dansant et en souriant. Elle fait tourner ses bras en l'air. Rochelle rebondit sur place, déplaçant un bras vers le bas et l'autre vers le haut devant elle. Monique revient et elles font des pas rapides sur place, levant et baissant les mains. Les danseuses s'agenouillent. Webster, co-animateur.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Aline Diagne, alias Webster, et bienvenue à l'événement national du programme virtuel pour le jour de l'émancipation. Je vous parle de Tiohtià:ke, Montréal, territoire autochtone non cédé et historiquement lieu de rassemblement pour de nombreuses Premières Nations. Nous reconnaissons la nation Kanien'kehá:ka comme gardienne des terres et des eaux qui s'y trouvent. Nous ne pouvons oublier que le processus colonial par lequel ce territoire a été saisi impacte toujours la vie des Premières Nations au Québec, au Canada et dans le reste des Amériques. Le 24 mars 2021, la Chambre des communes a voté à l'unanimité pour désigner le 1er août comme jour de l'émancipation à travers le Canada. Ce jour-là, qui marque l'entrée en vigueur de l'abolition de l'esclavage dans les colonies britanniques, les personnes asservies africaines et afrodescendantes ont vu la liberté se profiler à l'horizon. Aujourd'hui, nous prenons un moment pour reconnaître l'impact de l'histoire de l'esclavage sur notre société actuelle. Nous profitons de ce moment pour commémorer le début de la fin officielle de l'esclavage des Africains et de leurs descendants en Amérique du Nord britannique. Avant cela, le 1er janvier 1804, Haïti a été la première nation noire à déclarer son indépendance. Haïti a suscité l'inspiration des mouvements abolitionnistes, dont celui qui a conduit à la loi sur l'abolition de l'esclavage en 1834.
Welcome to the virtual event for Emancipation Day. My name is Sylvia Paris Drummond, and I am on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq people in this province now called Nova Scotia. This is also the land of the African Nova Scotians who have been here generationally and on whose shoulders I stand for strength. Why is it important for us to recognize Emancipation Day? It's simple. For centuries, Black Canadians and their communities contributed to the growth and diversity of Canada. When we address how the legacy of slavery has contributed to the ongoing systemic oppression of Black communities, only then can we pave a path to a brighter future.
La loi pour l'abolition de l'esclavage, votée en 1833 et promulguée l'année suivante, entraîna l'abolition de cette pratique en Amérique du Nord britannique, aujourd'hui le Canada. Cette loi a ouvert un chemin vers la liberté pour les Africains et leurs descendants, assujettis à l'esclavage au Canada et à l'étranger, tout particulièrement aux États-Unis.
By officializing August 1st as Emancipation Day, the Government of Canada recognizes the history of slavery in Canada, remembers the injustices committed against people of African descent, and salutes their courage, resilience, and perseverance in overcoming adversity through our history. This day is also an opportunity for us all to reflect and stand up to anti-Black racism. We invite everyone, wherever you are, to renew your commitment to equity, social justice, and the fight against systemic anti-Black racism. We also recognize the scourge of anti-Indigenous racism that has stained our nation, including through the legacy of the enslavement of Indigenous peoples.
Robert Ball, Réseau des hommes gays noirs de l'Ontario.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of our command. Quand ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Michel Adams chante l'hymne national noir.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the faith that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Webster, co-animateur, artiste hip-hop et passionné d'histoire.
Pendant plus de 400 ans, du 16e au 19e siècle, la traite transatlantique des esclaves a marqué l'un des plus grands mouvements forcés de population à travers le monde. Nous estimons entre 12,5 et 15 millions d'enfants, de femmes et d'hommes africains qui ont été transportés de force vers les Amériques et les Caraïbes pour y travailler en tant qu'esclaves. Pendant cette période turbulente, le commerce transatlantique des esclaves a causé la mort, la déshumanisation, le viol et l'exploitation des personnes africaines et afrodescendantes. Ces personnes ont comblé le manque de main-d'œuvre causé par les actions des colons en Amérique pour décimer les peuples autochtones. Il est important de se souvenir que les personnes asservies ont toujours résisté à cette condition, que ce soit à travers des résistances quotidiennes, comme le ralentissement de la cadence ou le sabotage des outils de travail, ou à travers des sacrifices ultimes, comme l'avortement, l'infanticide, le suicide ou la rébellion armée.
Sylvia Paris Drummond, co-animatrice.
From 1451 to 1600, the beginning of the slave trade led to the displacement of 250,000 African people and their descendants who were transported to the New World. The first enslaved African people and their descendants were brought to Spanish colonies on the mainland and in the Caribbean directly from Spain. Shortly after, the first direct shipment of enslaved people from the western coast of Africa made its way to the Americas. This mass of enslaved people came from West and Central Africa. Between 1601 and 1700, the trade grew to a total of 1.3 million enslaved people. The majority came from West Central Africa. And by 1701 to 1811, the transatlantic slave trade peaked with a total of 6 million slaves transported within the century.
L'historien québécois Marcel Trudel a estimé que 4185 personnes ont été réduites en esclavage au Québec, de l'époque de la Nouvelle-France au régime anglais, donc du 17e siècle au début du 19e siècle. Avec la conquête britannique dans la deuxième moitié du 18e siècle, l'esclavage s'est étendu dans ce qui allait devenir le Haut-Canada, l'Ontario, ainsi que les provinces atlantiques. Toutefois, cette pratique existait déjà dans cette région. Selon Marcel Trudel, les 2/3 des personnes qui ont été assujetties à l'esclavage au Québec étaient autochtones et le tiers était africain ou afrodescendant. Les esclaves autochtones étaient, de manière générique, appelés bannis. L'esclavage au Canada était principalement domestique. En l'absence de plantations de coton, de canne à sucre ou d'indigo, les esclaves s'occupaient principalement des tâches ménagères, mais pouvaient aussi s'occuper des récoltes dans les champs. Puisqu'il n'y avait pas beaucoup d'esclaves au Canada comparé au reste du monde atlantique de l'époque, la seule résistance possible à l'asservissement était la fuite. Après la prise de pouvoir britannique, les colons amenèrent un nombre croissant d'Africains asservis leurs descendants dans le Haut et le Bas-Canada, ainsi que dans le Canada atlantique.
From 1783 to 1785, 3,000 Black people arrived in Nova Scotia due to the American Revolution and Loyalist migration. This was the largest group of African people to land in Nova Scotia in one movement. 11 years later, over 600 Jamaican Maroons were exiled from the island and deported to Nova Scotia after much rebellion against the colonial government. Many petitioned colonial authorities to return to Jamaica, but had to migrate to West Africa through the Sierra Leone Company instead. By 1833, the Slavery Abolition Act abolished slavery in the British colonies, setting a pathway for freedom for over 800,000 enslaved Africans and their descendants throughout parts of South America, South Africa, the Caribbean, and Canada. For most enslaved people in British North America, however, the act resulted only in partial liberation. Only emancipated children under the age of 6 were set free. Those who were older were expected to work for free as apprentices for 4 to 6 years. Nonetheless, through the act, Canada became a colony where many enslaved African Americans would find freedom. Those who could escape and others who gained their freedom took sanctuary on Canadian soil between 1834 and the 1860s. However, anti-Black racism persisted, and their vibrant communities were faced with the scourge of racial discrimination and hate.
L'esclavage a eu un impact culturel, traditionnel, psychologique et social considérable pour les personnes issues de la diaspora africaine. Il a également eu un impact systémique à travers les injustices raciales, le colorisme et le traumatisme culturel partagé qui s'est transmis de génération en génération. Maintenant, pour construire une société plus forte et plus inclusive, nous devons nous rassembler. Nous devons prendre la décision consciente de reconnaître le travail en amont pour s'attaquer de front à l'héritage de l'esclavage. Et pour ce faire, nous devons combattre le racisme anti-noir et anti-autochtone, soutenir les peuples autochtones et les personnes afrodescendantes dans leur lutte pour surmonter les barrières systémiques auxquelles ils font face aujourd'hui. Bien que le changement n'aura pas lieu du jour au lendemain, il est essentiel de reconnaître l'importance du jour de l'émancipation comme marqueur d'une tradition afro-canadienne. En cette journée, nous désirons prendre le temps de réfléchir à propos de la signification de l'existence historique de l'esclavage institutionnalisé sur le territoire sur lequel nous vivons. Il est primordial de reconnaître le préjudice multigénérationnel qui a été engendré par cette histoire. Et nous nous devons d'honorer la contribution des personnes de descendance africaine à l'édification de ce pays. L'émancipation signifie être libre et avoir des droits fondamentaux. Et, dans le Canada d'aujourd'hui, il est de notre devoir sacré de préserver ce principe de droits et libertés pour tout le monde avec le plus grand respect et le plus grand soin.
In our journey to healing and reflection, we remember the ones who came before us. the ancestors who impacted Black Canadian history, which ultimately is Canadian history. We remember one woman in particular, Marie Joseph Angelique, an enslaved Black woman owned by Thérèse du Courage de Francheville in Montreal. Marie Joseph was born in 1705 in Madeira, Portugal. Sold in her early teens and taken to North America. In 1734, it was alleged that she set fire to her merchant's quarter in a desperate attempt to free herself from bondage. She was shortly thereafter charged with arson, which at the time was a capital crime. For those charges, she was tortured into a confession, hanged, her body burned, and ashes spread to the wind. The execution was carried by another Black slave, Matthew Lavielle, who was bought from Martinique to become the executioner of New France until his death in 1743.
Majid Johari est assis dans son bureau.
Hello, I'm Majid Johari, the Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and I'd like to acknowledge that I'm currently on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Huron-Wendat. As we learn about Canada's history, we must acknowledge the various communities that have been impacted and that have come together to make Canada what we know today. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has always said that the diversity is our greatest strength. And indeed, it is. In 2020, I introduced my motion M36 in the House of Commons. I'm proud that on March 24, 2021, this motion was unanimously passed, and this is due to the support of our community groups and advocates such as Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth, the Honorable Bardish Chagger, as well as Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard and the leadership of this government. August 1st will now be recognized as the Emancipation Day. This day recognizes the abolishment of the slavery in British Empire, and it's an effort to highlight the contribution that members of the Black community have made in Canada. This motion is a stepping stone toward building a more just and equitable society, as well as extension of our commitment to combat racism and anti-Black racism in Canada. Through the three principles of acknowledgement, empowerment, and engagement, we paved the path toward this work. Now, I have the honor of introducing my colleague, the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth, the Honorable Bardish Chagger. Minister.
Hello, bonjour. I'm sharing this message from Waterloo, Ontario, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples. I would like to start by thanking my friend and colleague, Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, Majid Johari, for his inspiring words and for his work in this space. As we've heard, Emancipation Day marks the day in 1834 when the Slavery Abolition Act took effect, leading to the freedom of enslaved people in British North America, now known as Canada. Today and always, we must acknowledge the devastating history of slavery, the unjust and inhumane treatment of people of African descent in Canada, and the persisting presence of systemic racism. Emancipation Day is also an opportunity to celebrate and reflect on the resilience of Black communities throughout our history, and a time to recognize the tremendous contributions they have made and continue to make to our country, making Canada the diverse society that we are today. C'est une occasion de prendre toute la mesure de l'héritage colonial et du racisme au Canada. And it's another day for us to commit to learning more about this dark chapter of our history and endeavor to create an even better future. We must continue seeking out, facing, and acknowledging the truth, no matter how painful or shameful it is. When we confront these uncomfortable truths, we create space for Black Canadians who live not only with the past trauma of slavery, but the current and repeated trauma of the anti-Black racism, discrimination, and injustice in Canada. On Emancipation Day and every day, let us be brave enough to face the truth of our past. Let us be brave enough to look critically at the systemic racism and inequality that too many Black, Indigenous, and racialized people, as well as members of religious minorities in Canada, still face. Ayons le courage de militer en tant qu'alliés et de nous battre pour le changement jusqu'à ce que chaque personne au Canada, quelle que soit son identité raciale, ses croyances religieuses, son orientation sexuelle ou son identité de genre, ait toutes les chances de se réaliser et de participer pleinement à la vie de la société. Let us listen to the communities who are seeking equity, social justice, and freedom. Let us look inwards and outwards at the spaces that we are present in to bring about the positive changes needed to allow each individual to be their true authentic self and to contribute to their full potential. Let us root out modern-day slavery where it still exists. 40 million people worldwide are estimated to be trapped in modern slavery, and almost 3/4 of them are women and children. Le gouvernement du Canada est déterminé à s'élever contre le racisme, la discrimination, l'injustice et la haine sous toutes leurs formes. Nous avons fait des progrès importants ensemble, mais il reste encore beaucoup plus à faire. Under the leadership of Justin Trudeau, our government knows if we work together, we can build a consciously more inclusive Canada. And our government remains committed to doing this.
Justin Trudeau, Greg Fergus, Wanda Thomas-Bernard et Saliou Diallo participent à un appel vidéo.
Salut tout le monde. Mon nom est Greg Fergus, je suis le député de Hull-Aylmer et aussi le secrétaire parlementaire du Premier ministre. Et j'aimerais vous féliciter et vous souhaiter le bienvenu à notre panel, notre discussion sur le jour de l'émancipation. Hi, folks. I'm Greg Fergus, a member of Parliament for Hull-Aylmer, as well as the Prime Minister's Parliamentary Secretary. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the Emancipation Day discussion panel. And we are grateful to be here. J'aimerais vous présenter nos invités, nos conférenciers d'honneur, où est-ce qu'on va avoir une belle discussion. Tout d'abord, le très honorable Justin Trudeau. On a aussi la sénatrice Wanda Thomas-Bernard. Et on a M. Saliou Diallo, le nouveau président de la table des consultations du mois de l'histoire des Noirs de Québec. So let's get right in. Senator, if I could ask the first question to you. You have played an instrumental role in the official recognition of Emancipation Day. And before Member of Parliament Majid Jahari's motion in the House of Commons, you were the first to introduce an Emancipation Day bill in the Senate. How have Black communities' work across the country inspired your advocacy?
When I think about all of the advocacy work that has happened across the country for the past 25, 30 years, I couldn't help but be inspired to not only pick up the torch, but to carry it forward, to have this national recognition of Emancipation Day. I was particularly inspired by the Ontario Black History Society, who've worked so hard and tried several times to have this legislation passed. Mm-hmm. And we tried to find a way to make this happen, and so we did.
If I may ask a second question of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, having Emancipation Day formally recognized is a significant achievement. However, we all know that there is much more work to be done. Could you share your thoughts on what we can do to increase the awareness of Emancipation Day in Canada?
I think we're actually at a moment where Canadians are coming to an understanding that our history is not as rosy as we once looked at it. Obviously, the discovery of grave sites around former residential schools has been a part of it. We are coming to grips with the fact that Canada has a racist colonial past that extends into the present, and that we need to understand the lessons and the mistakes of the past, but also the successes of the past and how they have an impact today in our daily lives and how we're building a future. So making sure that there is proper education, not just around Emancipation Day, not just around February, which is Black History Month, but also day in and day out about our history, about the fact that Black history is Canadian history, that the stories across the country that gather us together are not just the stories of English and French settlers.
Monsieur Diallo, à votre tour, la table de concertation du mois de l'histoire des Noirs est au centre de l'organisation des activités du mois de l'histoire des Noirs de Québec depuis plus de 5 ans. Parlez-nous un peu du rôle que vous avez joué pour assurer la vitalité de la communauté noire de Québec.
Je vous remercie beaucoup, mon cher Craig. Je tiens à remercier le Premier ministre Trudeau et l'équipe dirigeante à Ottawa pour tous les efforts qui sont faits en faveur de l'inclusion de toutes les communautés composant la nation canadienne. À Québec, en 2021, on a organisé le premier grand événement virtuel de notre région et nous avons tenu plus de 36 activités qui ont touché 80 000 personnes. Pour assurer la vitalité des Afro-Canadiens à Québec, nos actions se déclinent en 3 axes: mémoire, reconnaissance et participation. La mémoire vise à rappeler, comme le Premier ministre l'a dit, que l'histoire du Canada est faite de mémoires multiples. Il est important de mettre en lumière l'apport des différentes composantes de la nation, y compris des Afro-Canadiens, à l'histoire du pays. Le second axe, rapidement, c'est la reconnaissance et l'intégration. Elle résulte de la capacité des Canadiens et de leurs institutions à valoriser le passé et l'avenir pluriethnique du pays. Les Afro-descendants appartiennent à part entière à la communauté canadienne et contribuent à son développement. Le COVID a montré à quel point les Afro-Canadiens étaient en première ligne dans les domaines de la santé, de l'économie numérique et aussi au sein des institutions financières. Il est donc important que l'environnement institutionnel soit en phase avec cette réalité. À notre échelle, nous organisons des activités de reconnaissance de personnes et d'organisations qui, par leur réalisation, peuvent être des sources d'inspiration pour l'ensemble des communautés. En 2021, par exemple, nous avons organisé le premier sommet de la jeunesse qui a réuni des jeunes afrodescendants et des jeunes autochtones autour de la thématique de l'appartenance au Canada. Le dernier axe, c'est la participation. Elle est politique, économique et sociale. Nous avons mis l'accent depuis 2 ans sur l'entrepreneuriat. Nous contribuons à la visibilité des entrepreneurs afrodescendants de la région et soutenons le succès, notamment à travers les plateformes Trésor Afro, qui permettra à terme d'avoir plus de débouchés en faisant connaître leur offre de services.
Avant de clore, j'aurais une dernière question pour vous tous. L'importance de souligner les contributions et l'histoire des communautés noires au Canada va bien au-delà du mois de février. On le voit avec le jour de l'émancipation. Comment s'assure-t-on que les apports et la place des communautés noires au sein de notre société soient soulignés à l'année longue?
Je pense que l'éducation est au centre de toutes les transformations et nous avons d'ailleurs soumis un projet pour faire en sorte que nous puissions organiser chaque mois de février des activités dans des écoles pour sensibiliser les plus jeunes à cette transformation à venir du pays.
Je pense que c'est certain que l'éducation fait partie. On doit s'assurer que dans nos curriculums à l'école primaire, pas juste au secondaire et à l'université, mais partout, on parle de l'histoire et des histoires multiples qui sont à l'origine du Canada. On est très fiers d'avoir une belle diversité et inclusivité aujourd'hui. On doit aller au-delà de l'éducation, bien sûr, et passer du temps à écouter les uns les autres, s'assurer que la voix des communautés noires, des communautés différentes et diverses soit entendue, pas seulement en consultation, mais soit impliquée dans les décisions, que ce soit du leadership politique, que ce soit du leadership dans le monde des affaires ou communautaire. On doit regarder les barrières auxquelles les gens font face pour les réduire, pour arriver à les éliminer. Pour ça, il faut qu'on fasse plus attention à s'entendre, à s'écouter et à se comprendre. On ne peut pas tout simplement donner les réponses. Il faut travailler pour les bâtir ensemble, en partenariat, en coopération.
We would be living the phenomenal dream of our ancestors if we truly make Black history, Canadian history, embedded in every aspect of our society. And to do that, we need to be intentional. We need leadership. We need political leadership. I think having Emancipation Day recognized helps us move forward in that direction. And as the Prime Minister was saying earlier, Black history is Canadian history. So we need this history more fully embedded in our education system, but we also need it in our everyday realities. We often talk about the everydayness of racism. Mm-hmm. I long for the day when we talk about the everydayness of recognizing the contributions of people of African descent to the building of this country and recognizing the role that each of us have to play to make our country the country that it was intended to be. And most importantly, the country that we need it to be for future generations.
Final words to you, Prime Minister.
I think one of the things we need to remember is that Canada isn't a country that happened by accident. And it's not a place that won't continue without effort. We need to every day make sure we are living up to the ideal of Canada that we hold in our hearts and in our minds and in our dreams, and set ourselves to doing the hard work of getting there. And that's where Emancipation Day, the Decade of People of African Descent, the work that we're doing, not just in recognizing the history, but on acting in the present, like the investments in the Black Entrepreneur Strategy, for example, or other measures that go beyond the Black community, whether it's anti-Islamophobia or anti-Semitism or work to defend the LGBTQ community. There are so many reasons we need to make sure that every day, as Canadians, we're being better allies to each other. That this is an important moment where we recognize the need to, yes, remember our past, but mostly bring it into the present and into the future. Nous avons beaucoup de travail à faire toujours pour améliorer le Canada, pour lutter contre l'intolérance et la discrimination qui existe de réalité quotidienne pour beaucoup trop de Canadiens. Et ceux qui ne le vivent pas à cause de leur origine, leur identité, doivent comprendre qu'ils ont la responsabilité d'être des alliés et de lutter contre ces discriminations à tous les jours, parce qu'on ne peut pas s'attendre juste à ceux qui vivent des injustices, à être les seuls qui respectent que c'est une injustice. Nous devons tous de faire partie de la solution, et la reconnaissance de cette journée, la reconnaissance du travail que nous avons à faire, ça doit nous animer à tous les jours, pas juste ce jour-ci.
Absolument, 100% d'accord. À vous tous, merci beaucoup. C'était une belle discussion qu'on a eue aujourd'hui. This was a great discussion that we had. To take on the words of the Prime Minister, a great line which I once heard is that we have to celebrate Black history and Black contributions throughout the whole year, not just during Black History Month, because we're Black for 338 other days of the year than just February. J'aimerais vous souhaiter tous un joyeux jour de l'émancipation. Happy Emancipation Day, everybody.
Sylvia Paris Drummond, co-animatrice.
African descendants have lived in what is now known as Canada since the early 1600s. 400 years ago, in 1604, Matthew da Costa was the first Black settler to arrive in Canada. The earliest recorded enslaved African to live in Canada is Olivier Lejeune. While his birth name is unknown, it is believed that he was taken from Western Africa or Madagascar as a child and was later given the last name of the priest who baptized him.
La professeure Afua Cooper.
The law recognized slavery, which basically recognized the white ownership of Black people's bodies. Black people as slaves were objects, chattel, meaning a thing. For the Martinis, they brought upwards of 2,000 enslaved Africans with them, and for the Quebec, Ontario colonies, they brought about 700 with them. That came to an end under the French regime in 1760. Africville was an African-Canadian community on the shores of the Bedford Basin in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And race relations dictated that Blacks lived in segregated communities with very little infrastructure. And whatever infrastructure existed in Africville throughout its existence was put in place by the Black community itself. The land there was prime property, and it was coveted by the whites and by the white power structure. They did a number of things that would push the people out of Africville. For one, they refused to pave the road. The Afro villagers had no plumbing service, no sewage system. And to add insult to injury, they established the city's garbage dump in the vicinity of Africville. And finally, in 1964, they started bulldozing the community. One of the first buildings that they actually bulldozed in the dead of night was the Seaview Baptist Church. And because most Afro villagers were Black and poor, the city did not consult with the majority of them as to their future. The people were cast aside, their lives, their families, their communities, and their culture destroyed or compromised. The majority of it became an off-leash dog park. Many of the former residents today, as we speak, and their descendants have recently launched a class action suit against the municipality calling for proper compensation. So Africville stands as a symbol today in Canada, in Canadian history, as a place where a severe anti-Black racism was meted out on the bodies of Black people and on that particular community of Africville.
Mesdames, Messieurs, j'aimerais revisiter avec vous
Emmanuel Dubourg, député fédéral de Bourassa.
Celle-ci est considérée à juste titre comme la plus spectaculaire du XVIIIe siècle. Certains la considèrent même comme une épopée pour honorer des héros qui changent le cours de l'histoire. D'abord, Haïti fut la plantation la plus prospère de l'empire colonial français jusqu'à l'insurrection des esclaves noirs en août 1791. En parvenant à la proclamation de l'indépendance d'Haïti le 1er janvier 1804, ce soulèvement collectif, influencé par la Révolution française, marque à jamais le destin tant de la colonie que du Nouveau Monde. La révolte marque la fin du régime esclavagiste dans les colonies. La création de la plus jeune nation devenait à l'époque des enjeux politiques pour les puissances coloniales. Citons notamment les principes de liberté et de l'égalité pour tous, et aussi de l'abolition de l'esclavagisme. Les deux premiers pays à proclamer leur indépendance en Amérique, grâce à l'issue de 2 guerres et de 2 révolutions politiques réussies aux grandes dames des puissances coloniales de l'époque, sont les États-Unis. Le 4 juillet 1976, plus tard, Haïti, le 1er janvier 1804. Reconnu comme seul État de la Caraïbe à sortir de la domination coloniale par ses propres moyens, Haïti doit sa liberté à de vaillants combattants comme Boukman et Capois qui sont péris au combat. Et à Toussaint Louverture, précurseur de l'indépendance, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, le père de la nation. Le 18 mai 1803, Dessalines arracha le blanc du drapeau français et demanda à Catherine Flon de coudre le bleu et rouge afin de créer le nouvel étendard de la République d'Haïti. Aujourd'hui, 218 ans plus tard, je souligne la bravoure de tous ces héros qu'au vaillant peuple parvenant à la révolution haïtienne soit la plus spectaculaire du XVIIIe siècle face à la toute-puissante armée napoléonienne. Ils méritent estime et respect. Je vous remercie.
La cour du séminaire de Québec est un endroit important pour l'histoire afro-canadienne.
Webster, co-animateur.
C'est un lieu important parce que c'est ici qu'était la maison de Guillaume Couillard. Et Guillaume Couillard va recevoir le premier Africain, le premier esclave africain à vivre de manière permanente au Canada. Son nom était Olivier Lejeune. Olivier Lejeune, c'est pas son vrai nom. Il faut se souvenir que c'est son nom colonial, son nom de baptême, son nom d'esclave. On ne connaît pas son vrai nom africain, mais on n'a pas le choix de l'appeler Olivier le Jeune. Olivier en l'honneur du commis général de la Compagnie des Sans-Associés, Olivier Le Tardy, et le Jeune en l'honneur du père Paul le Jeune, le père jésuite qui l'a baptisé. Olivier le Jeune était issu soit de l'île de Madagascar ou encore de la côte de Guinée en Afrique de l'Ouest. Olivier le Jeune est le premier esclave africain ici, mais l'esclavage n'est pas une identité, c'est un statut. Donc, au-delà de son statut d'esclave, et c'est aussi l'un de nos premiers étudiants. Dans toute l'histoire académique canadienne, c'était l'un de nos premiers étudiants. Parce que les Couillards vont l'envoyer à l'école des Jésuites pour pouvoir être baptisé et apprendre des rudiments de français. Olivier le Jeune va passer toute sa vie à Québec et décède le 10 mai 1654. Depuis le mois de février 2020, Olivier le Jeune est reconnu comme le premier personnage d'importance historique noire au Québec. Et depuis le 10 mai 2021, une plaque a été posée sur son lieu d'habitation pour commémorer sa vie et son souvenir.
Des Canadiens noirs sont interviewés.
On Emancipation Day, we take the extra time to reflect on how far we've come as a race, as a society, and as people on this planet.
Looking back at our past, recognizing struggles of Blacks and Indigenous people in Canada as well as throughout the world, and recognition and accountability is the first step that we need to take.
Given in our society, as a Black woman especially, this is one of the first times in our history that we have the opportunity to step out of the comfort zone that we were always suppressed in.
With emancipation came about freedom. Freedom to think, to learn, and express myself.
What freedom means to me is that I get to accomplish things that my fathers and forefathers could barely dream of.
I can own a business and still be successful.
The ability to choose the life you want to choose for yourself.
Celebrating our success, our diversity.
To choose my friends, my clothes, my hairstyles, and my passions.
I think freedom now means that I can also dream bigger compared to before. The ability to feel safe wherever I am in Canada.
What freedom means to me is making mistakes and getting to learn from those mistakes.
The original patriarch of our family was an American soldier that fought during the American Revolution. If it wasn't for emancipation, he would have never been able to start my entire family tree.
And now me, myself, who wants to go into biomedical sciences, and my cousins, who is a doctor, she's a gynecologist now, have that opportunity to represent our family name, bear it even further.
It's all about being equal. And to me, that's what freedom means.
So when people meet me, I want them to know. They may see my skin color first, but that's not how I want them to remember me. I want them to remember me as the man that they meet, as someone funny, as someone approachable, as someone kind, and someone's lovely. And that's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind for my kids, so that they know they're allowed to be whatever they want to be without anyone deciding what they should be.
Hi, I'm Marcy Ian, Member of Parliament for Toronto Centre, joining you from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I have to tell you, it was an absolute honor to vote in favor on March 24th, 2021 to designate August 1st as Emancipation Day. On this day, I reflect on both the history and present day experiences of Blacks in Canada. From marginalization to segregation and slavery to racism baked into societal systems. Designating August 1st as Emancipation Day is a stepping stone, an opportunity to recognize the past and push for a better present and even brighter future. In May 2020, after the death of George Floyd, the world came together to take to the streets and chant Black Lives Matter. At that point, I thought to myself, how far have we really come? Have we not learned anything from the civil rights movements of the 1960s? Has the needle moved at all? My father, who was going to school in Cambridge at the time in the 60s, compared some of the protests then to what was happening now. Look at the differences, he said, and answered before I could. The people who were chanting Black Lives Matter, the people in the streets, were the rainbow. People of all races, people of all colors, demanding change. And that kind of allyship wasn't as visible some 60 years ago. Make no mistake, the work is far from over. We have much more to do to stamp out systemic racism. But to me, Emancipation Day is more than a day for Black people. It is for all people. Black history is Canadian history. There is no freedom unless we all.
Rosemary Sadler, ancienne présidente, Société d'histoire des Noirs de l'Ontario.
My name is Rosemary Sadler. I'm an author, consultant, and social justice advocate. For a number of years, most people would have known me as the president of the Ontario Black History Society. It was discovered that we were supposed to petition the City of Toronto on an annual basis to have a proclamation for February's Black History Month. But by 1993, when I was the president, there was a problem. We almost didn't have it. Was able to get it through, and I thought, this can never happen again. I began the process to have it nationally commemorated, and did this by building a community of interest, not just about the organization, but about Black history. Because if nobody cares, nobody will be working on addressing anti-Black racism and systemic racism in this country. So I was successful in having that ultimately picked up with Jean Augustine, who then did successfully champion it through the House. At the same time, I had been approached by a colleague, and he was working on the internationalization of August 1st as Emancipation Day, and asked me in 1995 to consider doing that in Canada. By 1996, I had been successful in getting a proclamation for August 1st as Emancipation Day with the City of Toronto, Metro Toronto, and the City of Ottawa. By 2008, on the first unanimous bill of the province of Ontario, it went through. But it still wasn't happening federally. I was encouraged to create a parliamentary petition. The politics were such that it was decided it would be championed through the Senate effective March 24th, 2021. It was passed unanimously. Emancipation Day was proclaimed, declared to be commemorated across Canada. I think it also reflects back to the reality of what did that mean and what has it continued to mean to not be able to talk openly about the reality that there was slavery. And yes, it did mean the sparking of the Underground Railroad. Just because people could be free in this country did not end the experience of not being equal. And that is why we find ourselves at this point now, still having to address those inequities, still having to address the trauma, still having to deal with what wasn't fully effected in Canada August 1st, 1834.
Today is Emancipation Day, a time to remember and commemorate.
Ahmed Hussein, ministre de la Famille, des Enfants et du Développement social.
It's crucial that we learn from the lived realities of Black people in Canada and how systemic racism and injustice continues to harm Black Canadians today. Nombreux dans nos communautés continuent d'être confrontés chaque jour à la discrimination, à la haine et à des défis uniques résultant en manque d'opportunités et de ressources. Our government has taken steps to empower Black Canadian communities and address the root causes of inequality. We launched the Black Entrepreneurship Program to better support Black entrepreneurs and business owners through the pandemic and to provide equitable support opportunities. And we created the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative to help build capacity in Black communities from coast to coast to coast. Et nous continuerons à faire des progrès par le biais de notre programme pour l'entrepreneuriat des communautés noires et les inégalités systémiques au Canada. We know we still have a lot of work to do, but we're committed to supporting Black Canadians to build a stronger and more inclusive Canada. Today, we remember the victims, survivors, and descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, and we honor the resilience of Black people in Canada. Merci beaucoup.
Happy Emancipation Day to you all. My name is Stephanie Bernard, and I'm president of Nunavut Black History Society here in beautiful and historic Iqaluit, Nunavut. I'm privileged to stand here on the sacred land of the Inuit people of Nunavut, Canada. Not much is widely known in Canadian society of its inspiring and vibrant history and culture. For nearly 400 years, approximately 12 million Africans were stolen from the continent of Africa and forced to work in the sugar plantations and other industries of the time as slaves. Portugal was the first Western European country to establish maritime trade with people on the West African coast. This was under the brutal, dehumanizing, oppressive, and hopeless conditions of chattel slavery. They were trafficked to the Caribbean, North, Central, and South America. The history of Nunavut tells that it was the Portuguese that first brought people of African descent to Nunavut. Over 2 million Africans died at sea during the Middle Passage to the New World. Some African kingdoms actively resisted and went to war with slave traders. By 1800, Africa's population was half of what it would have been had the slave trades not occurred. The Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 took effect on August 1, 1834, freeing over 800,000 people of African descent in the British Empire. Emancipation Day also marks the end of the enslavement of Indigenous peoples, who represented 2/3 of Canada's enslaved population until 1750. There are Inuit who can trace back their heritage to people of African ancestry who fished, whaled, and explored in the Canadian Arctic over the past 4 or more centuries. Other people of African descent who live in Nunavut today can trace their own roots to many countries of origin. In 1999, when Inuit victoriously achieved the formation of Nunavut, a number of African descended people employed by government agencies at the time were involved in helping achieve this breakthrough over 20 years ago. This Emancipation Day, we must never forget the priceless value of freedom. This was bought with latent, passive, active, and violent rebellion and resistance for hundreds of years. Our African ancestors were determined that they would die to set future generations free. This is the ultimate and greatest sacrifice of mankind. Happy Emancipation Day, Canada.
I am Myrna Wisdom, and I am the granddaughter.
Myrna Wisdom, consultante, Association communautaire d'Amber Valley.
Settled in Amber Valley. Canada wanted people from the U.S. to come to cold Alberta and settle the plains. They arrived at the border. That's when they boarded another train and came and ended up here in Edmonton. Now they've got to come by wagon train to Athabasca. They had to go from there to Amber Valley. They had to blaze a trail as they went, a quarter section of land that they signed up for. But you had to clear the trees and you had to build a house. Now, Amber Valley was predominantly Black, and they helped one another. And there were Indigenous people out there who helped. The population grew, and the children, they began to leave the area to go to trade school or university. If our parents and grandparents could see what we've been able to accomplish, I mean, the children of the pioneers, we've done, I always say we've done very well.
Myrna and I have traveled. We traveled to Buxton, Ontario.
Deborah Beaver.
And that's where the Underground Railroad people settled. The people that settled on the Underground Railroad, they were actually escaping, and they settled in southern Ontario. I was born and raised on a farm in a primarily white community. The only Black people I knew were when my relatives came to visit. A question that I always get asked is, where are you from? And I say, Barrhead. And then they'll say, well, before that, because my skin is Black, they think that I've come from somewhere else. Most people, general public, had no idea there was Black people here that came between 1905, 1912, and settled in various rural areas. And that was how the Black Settlers of Alberta and Saskatchewan Historical Society evolved in 2005. It's a non-profit society which was started to educate people on the history of the Black settlers that came to Canada. We actually came up with a mission statement and applied for research grants. And so our criteria was it had to be people that were 80 and over, and they were descendants of the Black settlers that came between 1905 and 1911. The idea was to share information that and educate people about the history.
Sylvia Monge-Eleni, présidente de la BC Black History Awareness Society.
Is we try to keep and work hard to preserve the history of the Black pioneers in BC. We want people to recognize and to know the contributions that the Black people have made and will continue making in this province. The Black people that came into this province, they came with their head high. They didn't come hiding. They didn't come because they were persecuted. They came because they were invited. The governor at the time, Sir James Douglas, he knew that he needed a accessible group of people that were hardworking people and that they were going to stay here and they were going to settle here on the island. There were already people in the island, the indigenous people. But the indigenous people at the time, they did not count as citizens. There was a group of Black people that belonged to the Zion's Church, and they were unhappy. They were very unhappy because they knew that even though the slavery didn't exist anymore, but the racism that they were suffering was so severe. The promise was that they will be able to buy land, $5 per acre, that they will be protected by the law, and that they will be able to vote once they have been 7 years in the country, and that they also were able to sit as jurors. And they took the Commodore, a boat from California to here, and they arrived here and they were able to thrive. It is important when you are born as a Black kid, and then you start going to school at the age of 5, and you start realizing that, hey, white people look at me different. Hey, white people don't like me. It's important that as you grow, you learn your story. Black people historically have been mistreated and discriminated just because of the color of the skin, because they were considered inferior by white people. Now that you know this story, then you say, okay, what am I going to do about this? And then you read the books, you read the history, you read what the slaves did, how they came from Africa, who they were in Africa. And then once they came, what they did, they brought so many systems into the country that the Americans didn't know. Slaves and Blacks, they were everywhere in every aspect of the society. Yes, slaves that were in the field. You had slaves that were in the house. You had slaves that were nurses, doctors, teachers. When that kid is sitting in that classroom, no. You are not superior to me. What are you talking about? Look at what we did. Look at what we did and we keep doing.
Preserving Black Canadian history is essential to protecting the traditions, memory, and identity of our country's African diaspora. Organizations such as the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, formerly
Des photos montrent le Musée de la Liberté d'Amherstburg.
have remained dedicated to teaching us about the journey of enslaved and free Africans. Located in Amherstburg, Ontario, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum has serviced the community since 1975 by telling the stories of African Canadians' history and influence on our society. Through the amenities provided here, we become more immersed in our understanding of slavery and the road to freedom. When the museum became incorporated in 1975, founders Betty and Melvin Mack Simpson aimed to provide greater awareness to allow people to take informed action against racial, social, and economic issues. By creating a tangible way to learn about Black history, Black Canadians may find here a greater sense of self and knowledge in their heritage for generations to come. Two historic buildings make up the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, the Nazaré African Methodist Episcopal Church and the Taylor Log Cabin. Named after Bishop Nazaré, the Nazaré African Methodist Episcopal Church laid its base in 1848 and was the terminus for the Underground Railway. It became a literal and figurative sanctuary for enslaved African Americans who sought freedom. The church was also a school and community center for the underprivileged. It was approved as the first National Historic Site in Canada, recognizing it as a monument of hope and salvation, which the Underground Railroad granted. Beyond the railroad, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum features a capsulated timeline of Black Canadian paths and the new passage to the free world.
Hello world, my name is Aita Sedu, and I'm the proud managing director of a Different Bookless Cultural Center, the People's Residence. And we decided that we would approach the transit system to say we would like to celebrate our history of emancipation. Mr. Josh Cole, when he heard the news with the eardrum, and then it spoke to the second drum on his body, the heart, he agreed that we could have this common experience of the Emancipation Day Underground Freedom Train ride. And so when we got there, the first people that we saw were three little old ladies who had come in on the train from Oakville. And then suddenly a group of dancers who were coming from a performance or a rehearsal dropped in on us with drummers, and they began to dance and began to drum spontaneously. And then suddenly it looked as though all the doors in a train opened and about 300-400 people just poured in on us. But we managed to get them on the train, a train that came with a sign that said, Emancipation Day, Freedom Train. And when the doors opened up that train, it said, welcome aboard the Freedom Train. What a moment that was for all those hundreds of people who dared to imagine, not yet believing until they saw that train. Why were all the Canadians and the non-Black people and people outside of the African diaspora, why were they there? But I would like to think that they came for a common interest to participate in our history. What is the Emancipation Day Underground Freedom Train ride? I tell you, it is the most innovative experience that one can have as generations come together, as the diaspora comes together to recognize, to commemorate, and to celebrate Emancipation Day in Canada.
Hi, my name is Lincoln Alexander Estridge, but I also go by Ellie II as my artist name. The song that you're about to hear is called Hold On. The song is basically about holding on, obviously, but more than that, it's about
Lincoln Alexander Estridge, chanteur.
Person around other people that people can rely on or that you can rely on. It fits in perfectly with Emancipation Day because we've been holding on forever.
Lincoln joue du piano.
The summer is night, the birds and the bees, and I feel the warmth, the sun and the breeze. The world's been the same, it's only I, and I know that we'll be alright. There's a won't get warm if there's no cold. You can rest here on my shoulder. I won't change, you'll be alright. Times get hard as we get older. Some get shy and some get bolder. We all need someone sometimes. So I'm asking you to hold on. Whoa, hold on, yeah. You're tired and hurting and I feel your pain. Like you're drowning, you're stuck in the rain. You put on a face to betray that you're fine, but we know deep down you're hurting inside. Cause it won't get warm if there's no cold. You can rest here on my shoulder. God won't change, you'll be alright. Times get hard as we get older. You'll get shy, but I'll get bolder. We all need someone sometimes. So I'm asking you to hold on. Whoa, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
Incroyable. Merci pour cette si belle performance. Une expression de liberté, de force et de courage.
As our inaugural Emancipation Day celebration comes to an end,
Webster, co-animateur.
You all move forward with a greater understanding of how Black Canadians have contributed to Canada's culture.
Sylvia Paris Drummond.
We ask you to remember the ancestors that came before us, who have fought for Black liberation, and that you continue to speak up for injustices without apprehension. That we all honor the spirit of the International Decade for People of African Descent, because we are the change we wish to see. Thank you for joining us.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde de nous avoir suivis. Mon nom est Aline Diaye, alias Webster, et je vous souhaite un excellent jour de l'émancipation.
Générique. Office national du film du Canada, National Film Board of Canada. Le Secrétariat fédéral de lutte contre le racisme, the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat. Introspective Films. Réalisé par Marcus Armstrong. Monteuse, Nicole Oziel. Producteur exécutif, Oya Media Group. Pour l'ONF, for the NFB, André Picard. Sous-titrage codé, vidéo-description et sous-titrage par OneExtra. Droit d'auteur, Sa Majesté la Reine du Chef du Canada, 2021.